Attitude is Everything's Accessible Funding Guide. Episode 1. The video opens on Geo, a white femme-presenting person in their mid-20s with tied-up dark hair. They are wearing an orange high-neck jumper.
Recently, I've been quite successful on some funding applications, which wasn't always the case. I've recently got DYCP, I got a Help Musician funding, and then that's for my project. And then I also got funding for my hearing aids. That was through Help Musician via their own health and welfare funding.
Okay.
And also via Royal Society of Musicians. So really happy about that, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have had these hearing aids. So yeah, that was really important. The preparation, I think, was what I usually like to do. And I discovered this works best for me is kind of putting everything in my calendar. I'm always on the look for what fundings are available, when they open throughout the year.
The video fades into an introduction to the series from Joy, a black woman in her 30s with long braids and wearing glasses and wearing an all-black outfit. The video then shows Geo and Joy sitting in a large room which is lit by soft focus lighting. On the left is Joy and on the right is Geo.
Do you know anything about funding? Well, neither did I, until I sat down with 4 amazing people to talk all things disability and bid writing. So if you're an artist and you're disabled and you want to find out how to write funding applications, then continue watching these 4 amazing interviews. My name's Geo Aghinea and I'm the Digital Content Coordinator at Attitude is Everything. Thanks for joining and keep watching. Welcome to this episode. Now, rather than me try and introduce you, I would love for you to introduce yourself to me and everyone that's going to be watching. So can we start off with your name, your pronouns and your hometown?
Yeah, I'm Geo Aghinea. I go by they, them, and my hometown is literally the middle of nowhere, a town in the middle of nowhere in Romania, but I moved to London in 2020.
Nice. Can you talk me through how you would describe the music industry that you're a part of? So a little bit about what you do. Yeah, just how would you describe it in your own words?
Also, I say it's experimental, but it's also, it heavily blends vocals. So vocals are a big part of what I do. And so I can't say that it's entirely electronic. So I always struggle with this question. I would say my music's kind of progressing, and I would like to believe that there's a sonic identity that's kind of stemmed from my style of singing, and then also from the fact that I'm deaf, and that kind of I naturally lean towards different types of sounds. And that happened to be in the past, I would be very more attracted to synthetic sounds, because that's the information I was receiving from my hearing aids.
How would you say that your lived experience as a disabled person has affected your creative practice and your business approach? Would you say it's had an impact?
Totally. For reference, I'm partly deaf, and so my hearing loss is, at this moment in time, it is classified as severe. It didn't used to be like that. It's kind of progressed naturally, which I'm now looking into it, because I used to be medium, and now within the past few years, it's kind of gradually gotten worse. As a person with hearing loss who does music, it does impact my creative practice in multiple ways. But it's all kind of, I think the issue here is that I'm kind of reliant on hearing aids, and I'm also relying on the audiologist that sets them up. And then this opens up a lot of other topics of classism, or I feel like as a working class person, and anyone who's working class has less access to better hearing aids, because I've also had them off NHS, and usually there's different types of hearing aids based on different tiers. Mm-hmm. And the more you pay for them, the more detail you're going to have in your hearing. And I think that's a huge problem universally with how inaccessible they are, and also very expensive. And so speaking of that, you've also got the audiologist who needs to look into this and do all the checks very thoroughly. And it speaks into the same issues that if you go privately, you're more likely to get a better experience and better care. And again, this has been a huge challenge. And I've actually managed to fund the purchasing of my hearing aids via a few fundings, which I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, this is one of the issues. And also the fact that I also need different types of assistive tech to connect to my hearing aids, to be able to engage in group chats, or even to plug my hearing aids via an audio interface. Because with these hearing aids that I have, they're really good, they're really professional. But for example, I can wear in-ear monitors, which later on down the line, if let's say it happens that I would have a bigger gig, I would not be able to get to have the opportunity to wear in-ear monitors, which could be problematic. But also, I can't even wear headphones because my hearing aids have this thing that they're doing, and it's called whistling or feedback noises. The moment I touch them or anything else touches them, the moment they're out, they're starting doing this really high-pitched noises. And it's kind of having to live with that hasn't been pleasant, but I kind of found my way through it.
Can you tell me about some funding that you've applied for that you have been successful with getting? What was that process like? How did you prepare for that?
Sure. So recently I've been quite successful on some funding applications, which wasn't always the case. So I'm really happy about that. So I've recently got DYCP, I got a Help Musicians funding, and then that's for my project. And then I also got funding for my hearing aids, and that was through Help Musician via their own health and welfare funding.
Okay.
And also via Royal Society of Musicians. So really happy about that, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have had these hearing aids. So yeah, that was really important. The preparation, I think, was what I usually like to do, and I discovered this works best for me, is kind of putting everything in my calendar, and so I'm always on the look for what fundings are available, when they open in throughout the year, and I kind of put those days in my calendar, and I put the opening dates and then the deadlines.
Yeah.
If you can research BAPM, they were really helpful at the time, because basically what they do, they set up an online GP appointment with someone that is specifically working with performers, and they're going to have a chat with you and ask about what you need, and they're going to write a letter that you can then provide to the fundings. And they also, I think at the time, they sent me a PDF with all the funding organizations, because there's they work with performers generally, so it's dance, theater, music. And so yeah, I applied to whatever thought was suited to my practice. And yeah, I didn't manage to cover the full cost, but I managed to cover the half from two different fundings.
Yeah.
And that was still very helpful, because then I managed to get the second half in installments. So it was easier to access these hearing aids.
So it sounds to me like you're just a very organised person, because...
Be surprised.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about the funding you got for your creative projects?
So yeah, I was lucky to have gotten DYCP by Arts Council England, and it's Developing Your Creative Practice, and also Help Musicians Electronic Music Award, which came with a funding as well. So the Help Musician one was particularly for the upcoming EP that I'm putting out. It's a self-produced 8-track EP. It was mainly for mixing, and the mixing of it, the mastering of it, and the artwork, and then developing creative practice is mainly for basically, I think it's a year-long funding.
Right.
And then you get quite a significant amount of money. You can apply, I think, up to 12,000. And that's purely for developing a new practice or one that you're already working on. But it's just basically, it's for artists who want to explore new things. And then I think it's mainly successful if you put a lot of mentoring in there, if you put courses that you want to take to new things. I've seen people getting it for going abroad and collaborating with other people, because basically they managed within the application to prove that would massively change and help them improve their creative practice. And I think I think the flexibility of the funding, it's quite rigid in terms of like, you really do need to show that you're developing a new creative practice, but also like having seen that people have like gone abroad and like have learned a lot of really cool things. It's actually like really exciting for funding. And so, yeah, but again, if possible, I would advise for anyone who like wants to apply to DYCP to look at all the other successful applications. Because I think there's a website, I'm not sure entirely what the name of it is, but I guess if you look up on Google successful DYCP applications, there's like a whole range of them available online. Or if you have friends who have applied and have been successful, try and get their insights. Make sure that you show that it's a year-long funding of activities they want to take. That's going to improve your practice. Also, if you're, for example, a musician, making it also like visual, like putting some pictures, etc., would help, because there's a possibility that, you know, a video maker or like a visual artist, a dancer would look into your application and then like review it. And yeah, that's one advice I got I thought was really thoughtful, and I wouldn't have thought of that myself.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good piece of advice. Thank you.
Attitude is everything. Find out more via attitudeiseverything.org.uk.